Well, hello, welcome to Wellness by Design today. I'm Jane Hogan, the wellness engineer, and today we're talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I know it's foundational for healing, but we're going to get into that more. And I have an expert here to talk about it. That's gratitude, and our expert is Julie Boyer. Welcome, Julie.
Hi, Jane. So excited to be here with you.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I was just really happy to meet you and to learn that you wrote a book 10 years ago all about gratitude, and we'll talk about that. And then it's led to your own podcast about gratitude. So I'd love to hear how did you get into this? How did you get started with gratitude being such a big part of your life?
Sure. I love sharing sort of my gratitude origin story, as you will. It I was first really truly introduced to the concept when the movie The Secret came out. And I started keeping a gratitude journal. And in that gratitude journal, on one side of the page, you would write what you're grateful for that day. And on the other side, you would write a gratitude intention. So, what you wanted to manifest in your life in the present tense, being already grateful for it as if it had already happened. And, I did these secret gratitude journals. I have three of them that are full, but for some reason, I stopped doing it. I don't know why. Like many people with gratitude habits, they just go to the wayside and we don't really know why. And then fast forward a few years later, I was at a conference and I got to hear Sean Aker speak. And he is the author of a book called The Happiness Advantage. He also has a fantastic TED Talk. And what he was talking about is how to shift our mood in 21 days. So he gave us a number of different suggestions on what to do this in 21 days. And one was to write three things that you're grateful for specifically to that day, and that you weren't going to repeat it from one day to the next. So it'd be different every single day. And he suggested putting a note in your phone. Now, this was 2011. So we weren't using our phones for everything. So it was kind of like, oh, that's a fun idea to do it in my phone. So I started that night. I actually had an old tablet, a BlackBerry tablet, and I started writing in my tablet. And I used the gratitude intention that I'd had from many years ago. I added that in as my fourth thing, but my gratitude intention stayed the same every night. And incredibly, 12 weeks later, my gratitude intention had been around a goal for my business that I had been trying to achieve for several years. And that goal came to fruition. And it was, all these unexpected things came into my life to make it actually happen. So I was pretty sold on the power of gratitude. I started including gratitude in the coaching that I was doing with my team and as part of our, intentions for the new year and all that. And what happened about a year and a half later is I was pregnant for a second time. I have a daughter. She's 12 now. She's happy, healthy. It's amazing. I get to homeschool her. But at that time, I was pregnant for the second time and completely unexpectedly, of course, at 15 weeks gestation, I had a traumatic miscarriage at home. And, the police had to break down my door because I was home alone. And then EMS took me to the hospital. I had, emergency surgery because it was an incomplete miscarriage. And literally within 4 hours of being at the hospital, I was already on my way with my husband to pick up my daughter at daycare. And incredibly, that night, I wrote in my gratitude journal. So I wrote that I was grateful that my daughter had been at daycare that day and not home with me. I wrote that I was grateful the police were able to break down my door. And I was grateful that my husband and my best friend were able to be at the hospital with me. So I knew at that point that if I could use gratitude in what was then the most difficult day of my life, that I needed to share these practices with others. And that's where my first book, 30 Days of Gratitude, the gratitude program that will change your life, that's when I wrote my book.
Wow. Oh my goodness. You know, uh, I've heard a similar story. I mean, another person that had a traumatic day, I think it was the day their father had died, something like that. And that they had had this daily gratitude practice, and how on that day they still found things to be grateful for because they are in that habit. And it sounds like the same thing for you on this. horrific day, to find things that we could still, you could still be grateful for, is pretty amazing, and testament to how there's always something good to find, right? Always something good to find that we can be grateful for. What a powerful story. Um, and how you took this experience and turned it into a book 10 years ago that then changed other people's lives as well. Tell me a little bit about that experience with the book in the last 10 years and what's happened as a result of that.
Yeah, it's interesting when I wrote the book. So I wrote the book basically in 30 days. My sister, who is a high school English teacher, helped me with the editing. And so we put together the book and the editing and had it all finished within less than 2 months, which now that I'm working on a book proposal for my second book sounds crazy, but there was no book proposal, right? It was a self-published book with Balboa Press. And I just, all the things lined up so that from the time that I had signed up for self-publishing at the beginning of February of that year, by the end of May, I was already doing an Amazon bestseller campaign. Back when those things weren't even like, nobody was doing those. And my book was selling at full price. It was like, I think it was at the time, it was like $12 US or something. So it was an incredible experience to do it in such a short period of time. And I felt at the time, I was like, this is the culmination of my gratitude journey. And I was wrong. It turned out to be really the beginning of my journey. And, over the years, I continued to enrich my own gratitude practices, work on my own gratitude practices, share them with people on my team that I was coaching and all that. And another sort of really unfortunately traumatic experience for me is that I got pregnant for a third time. And I think you know where this story is going, but I knew this time it was 12 weeks. I started bleeding. I was like, I know I'm having another miscarriage. And I was able to look back later. I suffer from endometriosis. And so the fact that I have one child was a miracle, let alone trying to have more. So that's likely why I was not able to carry a second child to term. But that time, I knew it was happening. So I was obviously upset and scared, but I wasn't as upset as the time before, because I kind of was like, well, I know what's happening. And I had the same procedure as the first time because I knew that that had gone, okay, as much as, and I didn't want to like go and miscarry at home, which is what they tell you to do, like finish it at home. Like, no, I already had one traumatic miscarriage at home. I'm not doing that again.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up with getting a serious bacterial infection called invasive group A strep, which is life-threatening. So a couple of days after the procedure, I went back to the hospital. I was admitted and I was placed in a medically induced coma for a week.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I brought my gratitude journal with me to the hospital because I knew I was going to be admitted. And I was like, that was what I packed in my bag. And when I woke up after this experience, I really, truly understood what it means to wake up with gratitude. And so that sort of painted my life for the next number of years, is this understanding when you come so close to losing your life, that for me, the foundation of all my gratitude practices and what I really encourage people to think about first and foremost is, how are you waking up? And are you choosing to wake up with gratitude? And that's, I don't want people to have near-death experiences at all. Definitely not. So I'm encouraging people to start these practices now when things are going well.
Near-death experience not necessary to wake up with
Exactly.
gratitude. And that is the
Yes.
name of your first book, right? Wake Up with Gratitude.
My first book is 30 Days of Gratitude.
30 Days of Gratitude. Okay.
But
Oh, your
my
podcast.
and my blog is Wake Up with Gratitude, because that
Okay.
kind of came later. And it was interesting. The name came from, I had a list on my bathroom wall of like 10 things that bring me joy. And one of them was like, remembering to wake up with gratitude. And I was looking at this every day, and it took me almost 2 years to realize, like, Wake Up with Gratitude, was going to be the brand that I was going to build.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, I mean, I know the power of gratitude. People that are listening that have chronic pain or some other chronic condition, they might be wondering, okay, what's gratitude got to do with that? Like, how is gratitude going to help me with my health? So, what would you say about that, Julie? Now that you've been working with gratitude so much and working with people, what's the connection between gratitude and our health?
Yeah, that's a big one. I've interviewed over 150 people through my podcast. So not only through my own personal experiences of having chronic pain, endometriosis for 30 years, all of these things, going through traumatic events and, traumatic life events. And what I find with a gratitude practice is it allows you to look for things that are working. So when we're experiencing chronic pain, and I speak from personal experience as well as from hearing from my guests, it can be very hard to kind of see beyond the pain. And sometimes we can really feel sorry for ourselves. We
Mhm.
can feel like it's not fair. And we're frustrated because we want to do more and our pain is debilitating and it's not allowing us to do more. So we can sit in that. We can sit. And I think, being with pain is an important part of any healing strategy. And then it's allowing ourselves to look for something to be grateful for. So for some, well, I think for all of us, we can say, I'm grateful that I got out of bed this morning. Maybe you weren't able to get out of bed this morning. Maybe you're suffering in such a way that getting out of bed is not possible every day, or you really struggle with that. So it's maybe gratitude for the warm blankets or the bed that you slept in, or that you have a roof over your head to keep you from the elements. And so I think when we go back to the smallest things and look to those for gratitude, especially because pain can feel so big sometimes, and it can feel like it's our whole world. And
Yeah.
gratitude brings us back to observing the little things that you're just taking, or we're just taking for granted. And it might just be that you have a device that you can listen to this podcast or watch this podcast on.
Mhm.
I mean, it is very easy to take that for granted. And it is very new technology in the scope of all book. But we're not listening to podcasts and watching YouTube on their phones. Absolutely not.
Mhm. Yeah. The thing about finding something that you're grateful for, it right in that moment, it kind of takes your focus off the pain too, um, which is very helpful, like from a brain perspective and in terms of trying to lower pain. I think just finding that something to be grateful for really helps with that. Um, what do your people say about that when they what kind of changes do they say they feel when they start a gratitude practice?
I've seen a lot of different personal stories about, overcoming pain, working through trauma, going through grief. Grief and gratitude are really like two sides of the same coin.
Hmm.
It's hard to have one without the other, but they really do complement each other really well. Being able to grieve and find gratitude at the same powerful practice. And also, what it does really, Jane, is it brings us to this moment.
Yes, the power of the present moment. It's
Yeah.
really
And
powerful.
fear and gratitude. Exactly. And, fear and gratitude cannot live at the same time. They don't live at the same time. So it's hard to be in fear. You can't be in fear if you're in gratitude. One thing that I'll let your listeners know is that I do have a free gratitude meditation that you can download directly to your device. So you don't need to be online. You can just download it and listen to it whenever you need it. And it's a 10-minute gratitude meditation to bring you back to the present,
Mhm.
to put you in a place of just for a brief moment. And I do find this that in those moments, in those few little bits, it's like a glimpse that maybe I cannot be in pain for just a very short period of time.
Love that. I love that. Um, you you talked about two different types of gratitude, really.
Mhm.
One was gratitude for like now in this present moment, and then you also, when you were talking about your practice, you were talking about a future gratitude, what I would call a
Yeah.
future gratitude or a
Yep.
generative gratitude, being grateful for something that hasn't happened yet as a way of like manifesting it in your life. You want to talk a little bit about that, using gratitude as a manifestation technique?
Yeah. For sure, because it's something that I've done a number of times in my life. So so the first time was like to get this business school, and I was like, this stuff is so cool. So then right after that, I worked on manifesting our first home. And it was another 12 weeks later, and we found our first family home. So I was like, this stuff really works. Now, the caveat is that sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes your gratitude intention phrase, for whatever reason, isn't aligning, isn't vibrating properly, or you don't quite believe that it's possible. So there have been times where I have written a gratitude intention phrase for months and months and months, and it's still not manifesting. And sometimes I let it go and come back to something else. The biggest one, sort of in recent memory for us, is that we wanted to move our family across Canada. So we were living in the Toronto area and we wanted to move out to the West Coast. And, we had family there, but we didn't have a house there. My husband didn't have a job there. We really had to manifest all the pieces for it to happen. And I started writing in January that I would be living, in Langley, BC with my family, and talked about this dog that we would have. And I would write it. And I kept changing it sort of because I would write it for a bit and it didn't feel good. But I kept writing it and writing it and writing it. And it manifested. Now, was that the only thing I did to manifest it? No. But it really, if I told you the whole story of how it came about, you wouldn't believe all the coincidences and things that lined up sort of in the last minute. We ended up moving the first week of December. I had said we're going to be living in BC by the end of the year, and we did it. And that gratitude intention was really important in my writing. And it's interesting because you were on my podcast a few weeks ago, and we talked about doing a gratitude intention about the way that you want to be and the person you want to be. And it's not something that I had thought about before. So I've been trying that for myself. I've just tried it on for a little bit, so I don't have anything to report just yet. But I thought, what a neat way, especially when you were dealing with chronic pain, is like the vision of ourselves being grateful for that person already.
Hmm. Yeah, I started that right from the beginning, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was imagining what I would do if I had my full health back, and I don't know if I was consciously saying I'm going to be grateful for this, but I certainly was, with this vision, like to be thinking
Yeah.
about, hoisting up the sails on a sailboat, or climbing a mountain, or playing with grandchildren. Like I was just so, I guess it creates a real positive emotion, right? And emotions create feelings, which are vibrations in the body. And then, the body responds to that. All the cells are listening. So, yeah, I feel like that's such a powerful technique, the visualization combined with feeling grateful for it and happy for it. And then repeating, right? Like getting a lot of clarity, really, as Joe Dispenza talks about, teaching your body what it feels like to have that reality and being grateful for it. So you've mentioned a lot of times that you do write it down in a journal. Is there something about writing it that's different from just like thinking about things you're grateful for?
Yeah, there's definitely something that happens in our brain when we write using a pen or a colored marker and paper, as opposed to putting it into our phone, making a note, or saying it mentally. Now, I just want to be clear that all of these are good. So
Mhm.
whatever method you choose, it's the right one if it's working for you. There is a brain connection, though, when you're using your physical hand and writing on a page. And even more if you are kind of old school and can do cursive writing, that actually affects your brain in an even more positive way. So I went away from writing on my tablet pretty quickly. I have piles and piles of journals that I like to, write in. And I love writing in my journal. I mean, I write so much now. I did this the 12-week program, The Artist's Way, this summer. and The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And in the program, it's a self-directed program, but the most like the foundational of the program is three pages in the morning called morning pages, where you just write,
Mhm.
and there's no like prompt or whatever. You're just writing whatever is coming to mind. So I just write and write and write. And often that morning page also turns into some gratitude, because if I'm lost on what to write, I'll lean into writing what I'm grateful for,
Yeah.
because it's like a muscle, right? That's what I encourage people to do, is think of your gratitude practice like a yoga practice or meditation practice. The more you do it, the more you build that muscle, so that when, as simple as you're stuck and you don't know what to write, you can lean into gratitude. But also when a challenge comes up, a frustrating situation comes up, or a trauma comes up, that muscle is automatic, and it does really help you, because it shifts your energy and it makes you better able to deal with the most difficult things, because you can get out of fight or flight and come back to that, parasympathetic nervous system, where you can think more clearly.
You think about training for just about, anything that's a difficult situation. You're only doing the training for the odd times that comes up, right? And so that you can be prepared for it. But then when it does happen, you are prepared. It's like, an army or something like that, being prepared for the situation. And so having the skill is part of the preparation. Besides that, it feels good and it helps you along the way. So
Exactly.
you said that, so writing it is really good. You've talked about waking up with gratitude. So is there something about the morning that's different from any other part of the day?
I think that when we choose to start our day on a gratitude vibration, it does affect how the rest of our day unfolds. That doesn't mean that we're not going to necessarily have a good day or a bad day. It gives us a better chance of doing that. So there's lots of ways that, a listener can start to wake up with gratitude. One of my favorite, most simple ways to do that is to change the name of the alarm on your phone. Most of us use our phone as our alarm. I do recommend you turn your phone to airplane mode before you go to sleep and not have those notifications over at night.
Yeah.
And if you can put your phone further away from you, so it's not right by your bedside table, if you can plug it in further in the room. And your alarm can say the words, I am grateful. Thank you for this day. Today is a gift. So that when you turn your phone to turn off your alarm, you're immediately reminded about gratitude, that today is a gift. I use a simple mantra that I say, and it's inspired by Wayne Dyer, and it's, thank you for this gift of another day and the opportunity to be of service to others and to make a difference in this world.
Love
So
it.
before I'll do that while I'm under the covers, maybe a little stretch, and I just say the words in my head. But it's a reminder that
Mm.
today is a gift. So those are two simple, like, morning wake up with gratitude things that take less than a minute to do, but tell your mind where you want to start your day.
So when you said you changed the alarm, so is the alarm, instead of like a ding ding ding, it's actually saying these words?
Well, okay, so you could actually do that. You can actually upload your own audio now. I just meant the name of the alarm. So you can change the
Okay.
names of your alarms. So, just instead of like morning alarm or whatever, you change the actual name, what the alarm is named on your phone. That being said, if you want to, use a tune or something, there's a really beautiful tune um, that is about gratitude that I love. It's like, I am grateful, and it's a little song. You can absolutely use that as well. That would be maybe a little bit more challenging for some people to use a custom sound, but changing the name is one that most of us can figure out. And if you don't know how to do it, that's okay. Your friends at Google will tell you exactly how to do it.
I love that you're sharing these really simple strategies. It doesn't have to be complicated, right?
Mm-mm.
Um, so waking up with gratitude is one thing. Do you do anything like before going to sleep that, do you review the day and well, you said you found some things to be grateful for in your toughest
Yeah.
days. Is this a daily practice for you?
Yeah, that's probably the practice that I've done the longest, most consistently. And I call it the bookends of the day. You know, Darren Hardy, the author of The Compound Effect, he talked about that. It's like, what do we control? And it's generally the bookends of our day. What we do when we first wake up and what we do before we go to sleep. That 30 minutes and 30 minutes is really the time that you own the most, which is why putting your phone on airplane mode is so important, because you're not going to be answering other people, right? You can focus on what you want to do. And so at night, I do have a bedtime ritual, just like a child would. I have a bedtime routine. There's no reason why we as adults shouldn't have bedtime routines, especially since most adults have a really hard time sleeping, especially women in perimenopause or menopause. So a bedtime routine, that's
All the more reason to have a bedtime
right.
routine. Yeah.
All the routine. Yeah. So bedtime routine is really important. But for me, the last thing I'm doing before I turn out the light is my gratitude journal. I still write in my gratitude journal, and I write, 3, 4, 5 things that I'm grateful for, and my gratitude intention, which I said I'm working on a new one, but the one I've been writing more lately is that I am grateful for a dip in our hot tub today. So I'm really manifesting a hot tub. It's in my backyard. I really want a hot tub. I know. Big
I
dreams.
know you're a cold
Big dreams.
dipper like I am, and we have a hot tub, and I really do appreciate it after getting in the cold.
I just
Okay.
like, so that's my last thing I do before I go to sleep. And a really fun thing you can do is, if you're having trouble falling asleep, try doing a gratitude alphabet. So that's when, instead of counting sheep, you start with the letter A and you think of the name of someone that you're grateful for and then why you're grateful for them. Then you go to B, another name of a person, why you're grateful for them. So you'll get to, E or F and you'll fall asleep. It's way more fun than counting sheep.
That is a great idea. I've done something similar, but I'm going to try that one. I've done kind of starting with the when I was born and trying to like go through all my ages and think about what I was grateful for. Um, but this is a different one. It sort of brings it attention off yourself, but towards someone else. So I really, really like that. Okay, is there anything about gratitude that we haven't covered yet that you want to make sure the audience hears?
The one thing about gratitude to remember is that it's very simple. It's not always easy to remember to do it, but keep it as simple as possible. And you want to layer your gratitude throughout the day. So maybe right now you already have a fairly good morning practice with gratitude. So then try and layer it throughout the day. Pause and notice things around you that you're grateful for, or maybe you want to start an evening gratitude practice. So that's how I encourage people to build this practice, is in layers, in simple things and things that you're going to remember how to do, and keep it how it works for you, right? So my gratitude practices, I have a lot of them. That's not going to work for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So find the ones that you're going to do and then do them.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll shift and change over time, and that's okay.
And what do you suggest? I mean, that was a great idea for the alarm in the morning, right? To remind you, okay, this is time for a gratitude practice. What about like last thing at the end of the day? Do you have any suggestions on how to remember to recall the day and things that you're grateful for?
Well, a lot of phones now actually encourage you to have a bedtime alarm, to set an alarm at night to remind you to go to bed and turn your phone off. So you could change the name of that alarm. I have one podcast guest, she had a reminder at 9 p.m. on her phone every night to just say 3 things she's grateful for. So her phone would ding at 9 o'clock at night, and she'd say, wherever she was, she would do 3 things that she's grateful for. So use that alarm feature. Why? Because we all have our phones with us all the time. And it would also be a good way to help you get into bed and to remind you for better sleep, and put your phone on airplane mode. Put your phone on airplane mode. As much as I want you to wake up with gratitude, it's like the first thing is learn to put your phone on airplane mode while you're sleeping, so that it's a lot easier to wake up with gratitude, because you have control of your day. If you don't wake up to notifications, you're in control. And why not start it with gratitude if you're in control? So at the night, remind yourself to turn your phone on airplane mode, maybe put a note, 3 things I'm grateful for. And then in the morning, wake up with gratitude. Thank you for this gift of another day.
So good. All of these things about feeling gratitude, of course, it puts us, as you said earlier, you can't be in fear and gratitude at the same time, or grief and gratitude at the same time. So it's putting us in that parasympathetic state, which is the healing state. It's also helping us sleep better, which also helps us heal, because that's when we heal. So there's
Yeah.
so
Yep.
many, like it seems so simple, but it's so powerful. A simple gratitude practice. I love it.
Yeah.
So I always ask one last question, and that is, because this podcast is all about living life intentionally, what would you say is one intentional action, like a baby step someone could take today that's going to initiate healing in their body?
Ask yourself this: where am I practicing gratitude in my day?
Okay, so start creating awareness around your gratitude practice, if especially if you don't have one already. I
Yeah,
love that, Julie.
I think people might already have one and they might not be aware of it. So just ask myself to be, where am I already being grateful? Right?
Mm.
Let's celebrate what we're doing well already. And then, like I said, layering on some of these ideas that I've shared, try them on for size, see what fits. And know that, as you're working towards healing, I call it the gratitude solution, meaning that as we're working through healing, whether it's a physical ailment, whether it's something that's going on with our mind, gratitude might be the missing piece for so many of us. And so, starting very simply with this question: where am I practicing gratitude? Start there and just layer on.
So good. Julie, where's the best place for people to find you?
You can find me at wakeupwithgratitude.com, and the podcast is of the same name, Wake Up With.
Wake up with
I've been
gratitude.
listening to some of my older episodes. Yeah. And you can just, there's lots of episodes to listen to, including one with Jane and I.
Yes, I can't wait. Okay, Julie, this has been so delightful. I love that you're sharing gratitude with the world and really helping people cultivate and keep a gratitude practice, and letting them see the power of it and see it as a real solution for a lot of areas that we're having difficulty in our lives, things that are challenging us. We can use gratitude to help us see the gifts in them, and also move on and heal our body, heal our life. So thank you so much, Julie, for being a guest on Wellness by Design today.
Thank you so much, Jane. It was truly my pleasure.
And to the people listening or watching, uh, hasn't this been fabulous? I'm sure you've got some great ideas and nuggets for how you can bring more gratitude into your life. And please share this with someone who needs to hear it. I think we all need some reminders about the importance of gratitude, and to really feel gratitude for the blessings that we have. So I hope you have a beautiful day filled with gratitude. Thanks for joining us.